Hey, Icarus here. Just want to give my thoughts on the Sentinel announcement and patch notes. I'm really excited about it. So if you haven't seen yet, Sentinel was announced last night. It'll be out in a little over a week. And they're leaving a lot of things exactly as they were. So they're not doing hardly anything to, well, nothing at all, to character balance and skill balance. But they're changing some stuff with the Atlas, and they're doing some changes with monsters. The changes with monsters are probably going to be the biggest. And then they have some pretty interesting mods that are available, it looks like, in these new. So there's going to be these. You're going to combine items in Sentinel League, so you can put two of the same base in, and then it will combine into something that's like both of them. But some of the example mods they have on here are pretty interesting. So like they're showing a Stygian Vice with gain Alchemist Genius when you use a flask. That's a big buff for flasks anytime you're using one. Then they show a ring with +1 to maximum power charges, which has never been a mod on a ring before, except for maybe Synthesis, but generally speaking, not a mod on a ring. You get +1 to minimum power charges, but +1 to maximum is new. So that'll be pretty big deal, especially for discharge. Get some easy plus to maximums maybe. And then these mods on the Astral Plate are pretty nutty as well. I mean, to start off with, it has a keystone, so it has Mage Bane on it, has increased global defenses, which we have seen before, although not on an Astral Plate, and chance to suppress spell damage on an armor base. So, I mean, you can craft that on there, but it's not a normal. I don't think that's not native for an armor base normally. So these are some pretty interesting mods that they have out here. Um, they introduced a whole bunch of new Atlas passives. I'm going to show it to me here. So they got stuff that allows you to make the monsters hit harder but have less life and vice versa, which is kind of cool. Got some really impactful stuff like this where like small Atlas pass grant nothing. And anyway, there's a whole bunch of them. Probably the one I'm most excited about, which I see they don't have a screen cap here, is there's a set of, I think it's 10 or maybe it's 8. I think it's 10 though, of these keystones where each one says remove all of the league content of a certain type from the map and gain a +2% chance for all the other contents. Like if you don't want to do Torment, which is probably one that I would select, you can just say, I don't want you to ever give that to me in a map, but then I'll have an increased chance of everything else. And you can take, as far as I can tell, as many of those as you want. So you could, block out 9 of the 10 possible things and just get a whole bunch of, whatever it is you enjoy, ritual or breach or heist or whatever it is that you want to see a lot of. So I'm pretty excited about these keystones. There's new Pinnacle Bosses. That's going to be challenge. It's probably going to make I assume they will be included in Gauntlets. So that'll be some new stuff to look out for. They got a bunch of new uniques. A bunch of them were designed by Lighty because he won all those boss race events. But they're sort of sneaky, very strong. Yeah, I think they're pretty interesting. So like, um, there's a belt that gives you Supreme Decadence, which is that your life flasks will also apply to Energy Shield. So you can, it's sort of really good for hybrid recovery. There's a self-harming Warcry helmet, which I think is pretty interesting. That could open up some interesting builds for sure. Some sort of cast when damage taken type stuff. Eternal Struggle. I don't remember being. I don't find that one that interesting. Call of the Void. This is the one that I thought was one of the more interesting ones. So it says all damage with hits can chill. All damage taken from hits can chill you. Enemies chilled by your hits can be shattered as though frozen, which is huge. That's awesome to get rid of corpses and not have to worry about that. And enemies chilled by your hits lessen their damage dealt by half of chill effect. So if you get, you're able to get a thick chill on them, that's the equivalent of having that much fortify stacks, basically. It's a good way to think of it. And all day damage taken from hits can chill you means this is just like custom built for those reverse chill builds where you get the chill effect to actually speed you up. So you're gonna see some builds that's using this for sure. And then this one is interesting. So it's not just a Wicked Ward, which is what this one says. It's like it's a random keystone, and then passives in the radius can be allocated without being connected to your tree. So kind of like I'm blanking on the name, Thread of Hope, but in the whole radius and around a random keystone. And I believe these are all from the Pinnacle Bosses. Doesn't say they're the... Well, they are the Pinnacle Bosses, but I mean, I was thinking that they were the Uber Pinnacle Bosses, the new ones, but maybe it's all of them. The most interesting thing to me, though, is probably that they're getting rid of, and I'll bring that up here, they're getting rid of Bloodlines and Nemesis, and they're making the Arch Nemesis mods essentially core, so they can show up just on rare monsters now. The Arch Nemesis League mechanics aren't going to be there, but the mods are there instead of Bloodlines and Nemesis. And this is actually something that I was hoping they were going to do when they announced Arch Nemesis League. And yeah, I'm really excited they're doing it. This is, by the way, this is a buff to Juggernaut specifically. In sort of a sneaky way, because there was a mod that used to be on Bloodlines called Nullifier, and what it said is if it hits you, you lose flash charges and you lose endurance frenzy power charges, and they're just wiped out after that hit. And that mod is not coming over into the new changes, and so that means that you can reliably use things like endurance charges for defense now. And obviously, you know, a lot of people were, you know, semi-reliably using them before, but I mean, there's some certain builds, specifically like armor stackers that are using like Replica Dreamfeather and all that, that would want to use the Transcendence Keystone, so their armor applies to elemental damage reduction, and then to cover their physical damage, they'd have it on a Juggernaut where they have tons and tons of endurance charges, and they're scaling the effect. And the thing is, with those builds, if you ever get hit by a Nullifier modded monster, you basically have no physical damage reduction whatsoever, so you're very vulnerable. So I never wanted to, in a hardcore scenario, ever build something like that for that reason. And there's a couple other builds as well that I've looked at from time to time. It's not something that's going to come up a lot, but anytime you really, really want to push a Juggernaut build into scaling their physical damage reduction just through the endurance charges, and you can be really reliant on that now in a way that you couldn't before in hardcore mode. So that's exciting. I'm curious what's going to happen for Pathfinder, because if Droughtbringer comes in, that makes Pathfinder much worse. I mean, Nullifier was there before, and that was unfortunate, but if the pool of mods that can be hit is getting smaller, and I'm not sure if it is, because they're keeping some of the old mods, not including Nullifier, so it may be an equivalent rarity. But Droughtbringer's pretty rough for Pathfinder, because they're very reliant on flash charges. I would love to see if maybe they don't make it quite as strict. To me, I think Pathfinder's in kind of a bad place right now. I mean, there's basically a belt that's better than their whole ascendancy, because the belt charges can be removed. So it's just, I don't know, it's a bit weird. I hope that for Pathfinder's sake that they don't bring Droughtbringer in as it is an Arch Nemesis. And they did say some of them are going to be changed for balance. I hope that's one of them, because otherwise I think Pathfinder's looking a little bit rough, at least on the hardcore side of things. Obviously in softcore, if it's, you know, only once in 100 monsters, it's probably going to be okay. But anyway, those are my thoughts on that. I'm pretty excited about the League. There's some strange things that I don't really get. I do wish they had done more character balance. I wish they'd done some skill gem balance. What's weird to me is in the question and answer after, Chris Olsen was saying they were even delaying bug fixes because they wanted the skills to be exactly as they were the previous League, which strikes me as just very strange. So I take it what he means by that is stuff like the Auric Champion health bug, where it's really high, which is why Detonate Dead is using it, like it's higher than it's supposed to be, is going to be the same this League as it was last. And stuff like that I don't really get. Like delaying bug fixes, I don't know. That seems strange to me, but I guess we're gonna have another detonate dead themed gauntlet as we have the last few rounds, which I don't know. I think it's kind of boring, but it is what it is. That's what they've chosen to do. Other than that, I do really like the patch. I think it moves things forward in a good way. Another nice thing about Bloodlines and Nemesis being removed is some of those mods are really visually sort of overwhelming. So this is going to reduce visual clutter a little bit. A lot of those older leagues had very visually confusing things, but Bloodlines and Nemesis had a lot of those, corpses leaving effects on the ground after they die that you don't see, and then they all explode on you and you take a bunch of damage. So don't mind seeing those gone at all. I didn't look through every single one of the Bloodline and Nemesis mods that are staying in, because some of them are. Um, see if it says in here. I don't think any of these are the ground effect ones, so I think I'm correct in saying that. I'm pretty sure Spirit Walkers is the apparition one, not the corpse one. But anyway, so I'm happy to see these go. I like that they're rotating this content. I was sort of hoping to lose some other stuff, but it's fine. This was a change that I was hoping to see, and I'm glad that it happened. I think this is going to be good league. It moves the game forward in a positive direction, in my opinion. I do wish they'd done some stuff with balance, but the stuff that they did do, I'm quite happy with. So those are my first impressions. I do have a couple new ideas anyway for league starters, because I don't like to play the same thing every league, even though I feel like the stuff that I have up for 3.17 ought to be just fine, since they haven't really changed anything. But I'm going to be looking to put out some new stuff, maybe some stuff that hasn't been seen, at least in the form that I'm going to present it. Up in the next couple days. I'm not going to go super hard on build creation stuff or anything, because it is, the same league, but I think I'm gonna put up a hardcore soul self-found friendly version of the Death Wish Elementalist with the exploding the stone golems. I have a Path of Building built for that already. I just need to make a video for it. And that one has very reasonable numbers. I haven't played it before, so I can't speak to exactly how comfortable the playstyle is. I know it's supposed to be a little bit clunky before it gets going, but it looks fun. I saw some pretty cool content of people doing that, and it was a build that caught my eye. So I'll have a guide up for that. Not the full mechanical guide, because I've literally never played the build, but just the path of building by the numbers, how I'm gonna make this defensively viable, because it was a very strong softcore build, but it hasn't really been seen all that much in hardcore, I don't believe. Anyway, I think that's me out. If there's anything you want to talk about, leave in the comments. I'll get back to you. See you in the next.